So as an heir, do we have to split each asset evenly, or can we kind of mix and match? So kind of like if you have some assets that you can't really split, like let's say a house or a car, you can't really divide a house or a car. You can divide the interest, but you either you all keep it, or you sell it and divide the proceeds.
Yeah, so over the years, we've seen all kinds of situations. Let's talk about the pros and cons of doing it both ways. So if you split everything equally, so like for example, you decide you and your two siblings are going to just keep mom's house or something,
Hmm.
and all three of you go on the deed, all three of you own it. Maybe you rent it and you split the rent, or one of you lives there and pays the other two rent, or whatever. The advantage of splitting it evenly across the board and taking everything, you have X number of shares of the stack, divide it up into three and give
Yep.
each one, their piece. Is that it's very even, right? I mean, there's no doubts, there's no future doubts like, oh man, I wish I would have taken some of that stock instead of some of this house because that
Hmm.
stock went nuts. Or I wish I would have taken some of that house instead of
Yeah.
some of the stock, more of the stock, because the stock didn't do well. So if you have it evenly distributed, right, then there's no risk of that.
And it's really brutally simple when you do it that way.
Yes, it
Once you
is.
if you start to mix and match, so you have the option. Let's just take a car for example. Let's say you have a vintage car, it's worth $50,000, and you have to split it three ways. But if one person has like kind of that vested interest, they really like this car, they want to keep it and like use this car. Maybe they can use some other assets from they have a trust with some stock. Maybe they give up a portion of the stock.
Right.
But you can do that for more of an emotional reason too.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think it just has to be communicated as well as possible what's going on so that everybody feels like they're getting the right deal in the end.
Yeah.
So if for example, if that car is 50,000 and you have one other sibling, so half is 25, you care about it more than your sibling, maybe you give up 25,000 of the stock portfolio if there is one and take the whole car,
Yeah.
and so and if that doesn't work out, you'll have to deal with that. But as long as everybody's on the same page, and I think a lot of these things can go quite well. And actually, for all the TV shows about the infighting that happens about inheritances, and I've very, very rarely seen families really get into it. It happens, but it's much more common that things go fairly well.
Yeah, and just be open and clear with your communications. I think that's the most important part is when you communicate these things is that basically say your intentions and you try and communicate in like an upfront and fair way.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. That you can, it doesn't have to be because that's a question I think that comes up. Do we have to do everything a third, a third, a third if there's three beneficiaries? And the answer is no. You can settle on it, but there are pros and cons to both directions.